Overruled based upon the testimony of the prior witness. It is received. And who do we have coming up to the stand?
Your Honor, the state next calls Trevor Naled, and for the record, he was handed a copy of Exhibit 91 on his way to the witness stand.
All right. Thank you. Sir, could you please stand and raise your right hand? My clerk, Teresa, will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Thank you. Be seated. And just for the record, what is 91? I know you're going to get to it, but...
91 is Mr. Naled's report, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Then, all right. Good, I guess, evening, sir. The first thing I will have you do is to state your first and last names for the record and then spell each, please.
Sure. My name is Trevor Naled, TREVORNALEID.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, and I'm sorry for mispronouncing your name. Sir, where do you work?
I am employed by the Wisconsin Department of Justice at the State Crime Laboratory in Madison.
And what is your position there?
I'm a senior forensic scientist in the DNA analysis unit.
How long have you worked there?
11 and a half years.
Could you please describe the work you do there?
Sure. I examine evidence for the presence of biological fluids such as blood, semen, and saliva, and then attempt to extract the DNA from those items. From there, I will make comparisons to standards from known individuals in the case.
And what's your educational background, please?
I have a bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse in biochemistry and a master's degree from the University of Florida in forensic DNA and serology.
Do you have any training specific for your position at the Wisconsin State Crime Lab?
I do, yes.
Please describe that for the jury.
I underwent approximately a 1-year-long internal training program that included the screening techniques we use, presumptive and confirmatory tests for blood, semen, and saliva. Excuse me. From there, I learned the extraction techniques, quantitation, amplification, and typing methods that our lab uses. From there, I learned data interpretation as well as statistical analysis.
Did you do any casework while you were in training?
Mock cases.
Okay.
I completed two competency tests, 2 mock cases, a mock court, and then after completing those, I completed an extensive written exam as well as statistical tests.
Did you actually work with DNA samples, processing and analyze DNA samples during your training?
I did, yes.
About how many times?
About 175 samples.
Is the Wisconsin State Crime Lab accredited?
Yes, it is.
What does that mean?
Our lab's accredited under the ISO 17025-2017. Essentially, it's just a voluntary program that any lab can enter to show that it meets established standards. They control our proficiency testing that's done twice a year.
Do you personally have any certification or accreditation personally?
No, just the lab accreditation.
Just the lab, okay. How many forensic DNA cases have you worked?
Just over 500.
And about how many DNA samples have you processed?
Over 2,000.
Overruled. The witness may answer. I'm sorry. Will you repeat your answer?
Over 2,000.
Have you previously testified in court before?
Objection, relevancy.
Overruled. The witness may answer. As a reminder, there may be objections. Please wait until I rule on those objections until you answer. Go ahead. You may answer.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you a little bit further about DNA analysis and how that works, okay?
Sure.
What is DNA? We hear a lot about it. What is it?
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid. It's essentially the genetic blueprint that makes us what we are. It codes for us to have 2 legs, 2 arms, hair color, eye color, etc.
And where's DNA found in the human body?
Objection, eating.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
DNA is found in the nucleus of a cell.
Is it the same in every cell throughout the body?
In every cell that has a nucleus, yes, such as white blood cells and skin cells.
And is that important in your analysis?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Foundational. You may answer.
Yes, it is.
Why?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Go ahead.
It's important because we can take samples, evidentiary samples that may be from blood or saliva, and compare them with known standards, which are typically buccal swabs, which are swabs from the inside of the cheek, or dried blood standards in the case.
Does each individual have unique DNA?
Everybody except identical twins is unique.
Okay. Are you familiar with something known as STR analysis?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes, I am.
What is STR analysis, please?
STR stands for short tandem repeat analysis. Over 99% of DNA is the same from person to person. So we're looking at that 1% that varies from individual to individual. Short tandem repeats are very small sequences of DNA that repeat over and over. So at one location, I may have 12 of these repeats, where another individual may have 14.
Is that distinction important?
Yes.
Why?
We can type standards from anybody associated with the case and make comparisons from the evidentiary profile to the standards to either include or exclude individuals.
All right. I'd like to direct your attention to Exhibit 91. Do you have that item in front of you, sir?
Yes, I do.
What is 91, please?
91 is my confidential report of laboratory findings dated April 29th, 2022.
And do you know if it relates to events occurring in the city of Waukesha on November 21 of 21?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes, it does.
Okay. Were you given some items to process for DNA analysis?
I was, yes.
Were you given DNA standards to compare any profiles that you may develop from the evidence to known individuals in the case?
Yes, I was.
Do you remember who you got standards from?
I do.
Are you able to name them? Or if you need to refer to your report, you may, but just let us know.
Okay. Can I read off the report?
You may read off your report. What page are you reading from, sir?
I will be reading page 2.
Okay. Go ahead.
Objection.
Overruled. The witness may do so.
I received buccal swabs, so cheek swabs, from Erica Patterson as well as Darrell Brooks. I received dried blood standards from Wilhelm Hospital, Tamara Durand, Jane Kulick, Leanna Owen, Virginia Sorensen, and Jackson Sparks.
Is there a difference between those two, the method in which they were submitted, the buccal swab versus the dried blood standard?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes,
Are you able to do the same thing with them?
I am, yes.
And what is that?
Just extracting the DNA off them to essentially put a profile to the individual.
Okay. And how do you use those profiles that you develop from the known standards?
We compare them to the evidentiary profiles that we develop.
All right. Now, you processed many items related to this case. Is that correct, sir?
Objection leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes, I did.
I'm going to direct your attention to just a few select items for my purposes, okay? On page 7 of your report, Exhibit 91, you have reported on analysis you were able to perform on some swabs from the steering wheel of the vehicle in question. Is that correct, sir?
That's correct.
And the swabs were obtained by another member of the crime lab, is that right?
Objection speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
That's correct.
How do they get to you?
They were collected by our chief now, Chris Johnson in Milwaukee, and they were mailed over to the Madison lab.
Okay. Were you able to develop any DNA profiles from the swabs of the steering wheel in this case?
Yes, I was.
What were your findings?
It was a 2-person mixture with at least 1 male.
Can you explain for the jury what that means, please?
We can look at a profile, and based on how many peaks there are at different locations, each person will have a maximum of 2. So if you have 3 peaks at a location, you know that you have more than 1 person there. And so in this case, we were able to say that it was a 2-person mixture.
Were you able to identify who those 2 people would be?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer based upon training, experience, and investigation and analysis in this case.
Yes.
How did you do that, sir?
I ran it through this program called StarMix.
Is that a computer program?
Yes, it is.
What is that, please?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
StarMix is a mixture deconvolution software that we use. Previously, it was pretty difficult to distinguish different contributors in mixtures, and now we have this software that's actually a 2-part program to do that.
How does it work?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You may answer, sir.
The first part takes inputs by the analyst, such as a number of contributors, so we'll look at the profile and determine that, but it also looks at the total amount of DNA amplified and essentially makes its own profile for comparison purposes. It will then compare it to the actual profile and determine if it's a good enough match. It will then generate another completely random profile, and if it's better and a better match, it will accept it. If it's not, it will deny it, and it will keep doing the accept over and over hundreds of thousands of times until it has a profile that is a very, very good match to the theoretical profile.
Safe to say a human being will be very challenged to do the same analysis.
It would take a very long time, yes.
Okay. And the software that you use, the StarMix or STRMix, is that used in other labs around the country, sir?
Objection, speculative. I don't know what's used around the country.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, it is.
Is it a reliable method of performing DNA analysis, in your opinion, sir?
Yes, it is.
Has it been accepted in courts and other cases?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Yes, it has.
More than once?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Do you know about how many times StarMix has been used in Wisconsin courts?
Objection, speculative.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
Since we brought it online in January of 2020, it's been accepted over 100 times in the state of Wisconsin.
Did you have to receive some specific training in how to utilize this software?
Yes, I did.
And did you complete the courses?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Did you use StarMix to analyze the DNA profile, this 2-person mixture from the steering wheel of the Ford Escape?
Objection, leading.
Overruled. Foundational. The witness may answer.
Yes, I did.
What conclusion did you draw?
Based on it being a 2-person mixture, Erica Patterson and Darrell Brooks are both very strong support for inclusion. They're both greater, or it's at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe the DNA profile if it's a mixture resulting from them plus an unknown over 2 unknowns.
So the odds of it being Mr. Brooks' DNA versus some other random person in the world are very, very rare, correct?
Objection, leading, and I don't consent to being called that name.
The objection is noted. I'll sustain the objection as to the form of the question. Just ask that you rephrase.
Can you explain for us what you mean by very strong support for inclusion?
Yeah, we have a verbal qualifier based off of the validation that the company, the StarMix creators, as well as an internal validation have come up with. And The highest number we'll report is greater than 1 quadrillion. So this is higher than the number or we're reporting greater than 1 quadrillion, but the number is actually higher than that.
Okay. I'd like to move on then to the gear shift. Did you receive swabs from the gear shift of the red SUV?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to develop a DNA profile from the swab from the gear shift?
Yes, I was.
What did you find?
That was a 3-person mixture, also with at least 1 male.
I'm sorry, you trailed off at the end. A 3-person mixture, what?
With at least 1 male contributor.
Okay. Were you able to do any further analysis on that DNA profile?
I ran that through StarMix as well.
And what conclusion did you reach?
Objection leading.
Overruled. The witness may answer.
The same as the steering wheel. So Erica Patterson and Darrell Brooks are both very strong support for inclusion.
Meaning that their DNA is on that gear shift.
Objection leading.
Sustained as to the form of the question. Please rephrase.
Please, again, state in layman's terms for the jury what that means, sir.
Both Erica Patterson and Darrell Brooks, there's at least 1 quadrillion times more likely that it's the mixture of, it's at least 1 quadrillion times more likely to observe the DNA profile if it's a mixture from H1, meaning the person of interest, and 2 unknowns versus 3 unknowns.
The person of interest being Darrell Brooks?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name and just leading the witness.
Overruled. Noted, but overruled. You may answer.
We run StarMix for the profile itself, and then each individual standard is run. So each person will have its own individual stat. So in this case, both Erica and Darrell are greater than 1 times 10 to the 15th, which is our 1 quadrillion.
All right, thank you. Sir, up on the table to your left, there's an item in a bag that's been marked as exhibit number 87. You see that? Yes, could you pull that down and take a look at that for me, please? Do you recognize exhibit number 87?
I do, yes.
And is that an item that you worked on?
Yes, it is.
Were you able to develop a DNA profile from exhibit 87?
Yes, I was.
What did you find?
That was a 2-person mixture with at least 1 male contributor.
And were you able to analyze that further using StarMix?
I was.
What conclusions did you reach?
Erica Patterson has very strong support for exclusion. Darrell Brooks has strong support for exclusion. Wilhelm Hospital has very strong support for inclusion. He is above that 1 quadrillion threshold that we have.
Okay. And last, I'm not sure, Madam Clerk, if you still have the exhibit handy. If not, we can just talk about it. I'm looking for the sweatshirt that was item number 84. Exhibit 84? It is? Okay. Judge, would you please hand that to the witness?
Yes, the record reflects I'm handing exhibit number 84 to the witness. Go ahead.
Thank you.
What was the other exhibit number? That?
The hat is 87 and the sweatshirt is 84.
Sir, do you recognize item number 84, or exhibit number 84, I should say?
I do.
Is that an item that you processed?
Yes, it is.
Were you able to develop a DNA profile from exhibit 84?
Yes, I was.
What did you find?
I first looked at this. Typically, we'll swab, if we're trying to find the wearer of an item, areas that skin contacts. So on shirts, a lot of times we'll swab the back of the neck area or the cufflinks. So I swabbed both of those. There was a reddish brown stain on the right sleeve that tested presumptive positive for blood. So I took that, a cutting of that. and then there were 5 hairs. There were more than 5 hairs, but I took 5 hairs that looked like they had roots on them for extraction.
Okay. And were you able to develop any DNA profiles from any of those swabbings or hairs?
Yes, I was.
Which? Let's start with swabs.
Okay. The swabbing of the collar of the sweatshirt was a 3-person mixture with at least 1 male.
How about the cuffs of the sweatshirt?
The cuffs were also a 3-person mixture with 1 male.
And how about the stain on the right cuff?
That was a 2-person mixture with at least 1 male.
Okay. Going back to the collar, the swab of the collar, did you use StarMix software to rule in or out the possibility of Mr. Brooks being included in that profile?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name. Is leading the witness.
Noted, overruled, the witness may answer.
Yes, I did.
What was your finding?
Mr. Brooks has very strong support for inclusion. He's above that 1 quadrillion threshold.
Okay. How about the cuffs on the sweatshirt? What was your finding and ultimate conclusion as to Mr. Brooks' likelihood of DNA in that mix?
Objection. I don't consent to being called that name. Leading the witness.
Noted, overruled, the witness may answer.
That 3-person mixture with at least 1 male, same thing. Darrell Brooks was very strong support for inclusion, greater than 1 quadrillion times.
And the last item you said was a stain on the right cuff of the sweatshirt?
Correct.
Did you reach any ultimate conclusion as it relates to that item?
That was a 2-person mixture with at least 1 male contributor.
And what was your conclusion?
Both Erica Patterson and Darrell Brooks are very strong support for inclusion.
You said that substance was a presumptive positive for blood?
Correct.
Objection. Leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, sir. I don't have any other questions at this time, but I would move Exhibit 91 into evidence, his report, Your Honor.
Thank you. I'll take Exhibit 91 is received. Any reason to keep the exhibits to the witness?
Can I see that last exhibit? I'm thinking
91?
The 87 with the sweatshirt.
You want me to hold it up? Or
Yeah. Is that 87?
That is 84.
84?
This cat that I'm holding up is 87. And then he has 91, which is his report. I'll keep that in front of him for now. Or he can keep that in front of him for now. Go ahead when you're ready.
These DNA analysis with StarMix, I'm a little curious to get clarification on what does it mean when you say mixture? What exactly does that mean?
A mixture just means that it is more than 1 person present in the profile.
So by it being more than 1 person present in the profile, would it be fair to say that would constitute it being more than 1 person?
Yes.
The gear shift had a 3-person mixture, so would that apply to the gear shift the same, that it would likelihood there's 3 different people's DNA on the gear shift?
That's correct.
And for the steering wheel, a 2-person mixture, so that would be 2 people for DNA for the steering wheel?
Correct.
Do you recall when you did this DNA analyzation? I'm sorry.
On any specific item or all of them?
Do you recall when you did all the items, I guess?
So most of the items were collected in November. They were not transferred to the Madison lab until the end of January. So I started, I believe January 31st was the first day that I started analysis. And then my report was written April 29th.
So you started the analysis at the end of January?
Correct.
And you did your report in April. Why so long?
I generated 583 pages and my report's 15 pages long, so that takes a little bit of time.
So you broke down the 583 pages into 15.
Correct.
To the best of your knowledge, do you know why it took from November to January for you to actually get the items that you were going to analyze for DNA?
Other than me picking up the case then, not really, no, I don't know.
Do you know where the items were kept prior to you receiving them?
Yes.
Can you state for the jury and for the record?
Our evidence technicians, when they came to the Madison lab, put them into storage where all evidence is stored.
Were the items sealed like they are now?
Yes.
And so I'm assuming you had to unseal them, get them out of the sealing packages to do the analyzation. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct, yes.
And did you yourself alone do the analyzation, or did you have other people that you worked with?
I did all of the DNA myself.
Did you repackage the items after you were done yourself?
Yes, I did.
And did you return them back to where you had received them from, or did you keep them at your, I think you said the Madison lab?
I'm based out of the Madison lab, yes. Typically, when we're done with evidence, we will return them to our evidence technicians, who will then put them back into storage. When the case is done, the evidence is then returned to the submitting agency.
So the items are still at your lab, is from your knowledge?
Now?
Yeah.
No.
Well, I asked that. Let me give you some clarity. I asked that because you said at the completion of the case, they would be returned to the agency that you received them from. So I was kind of trying to get clarity on that. So do you know if they were returned to the agency you received them from already?
I believe they were.
So it'd be fair to say in this situation, the items weren't continued to be stored at the Madison lab.
That's correct.
A lot of these DNA analysis, I noticed that specifically the DNA was analyzed for 8 people. Would that be fair to say?
Sounds right, yes.
And specifically referring to the analysis that had 3-person mixtures and things of that nature, what happens to the third person mixture that is excluded?
I
Is
don't
it any way?
understand the question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Well, I guess I'm referring to when someone is excluded, which I interpret as ruled out. There's still that mystery third mixture. Can that third mixture be identified in some way, or how does that work?
Sorry. Yes, we would need a standard submitted from another person who they believe could possibly be the source of that DNA.
So would it be fair to say for the analysis that you did that had 3-person mixtures, there's still a DNA that you found that's unknown?
That's correct.
And can you explain what is CODIS? Is that pronounced right? CODIS or Kodak?
Yes, it is.
Can you explain what CODIS
Sure.
is?
CODIS stands for the Combined DNA Index System, and it is a database of known individuals.
And when you find that a DNA, I'm guessing, I don't know if the right word to use would be sample, or I don't know if that's correct. When you come to the conclusion that a DNA sample is not eligible for entry into CODIS, what exactly does that mean?
There are certain rules that we must abide by for putting profiles into CODIS. Depending on where it's collected from, pretty much determines the eligibility on whether or not we can put it in.
One of your analysis had a 4-person mixture. Were you able to determine out of the 8 DNAs that you ran if any of those DNAs were found on that specific item?
Your Honor, I object that it's vague. I'm not sure which item he's referring to.
I'm referring to, it says, brim of maroon winter style hat.
What page are you on, please, sir?
6.
All right, so you want directing the witness to page 6?
Yes.
That particular
Yes,
item?
that's where I'm reading from, yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you ask the question?
Yeah, I said this one in particular, the one I'm referring to, has a 4-person mixture. Did your analysis identify any one of those 4 people out of the 8 DNA samples that you were analyzing?
No, it did not.
would it be fair to say for pretty much all the items that you did analysis on, there were at minimum 2 or 3 person mixtures?
No.
And why would you say that?
Typically in our reports, we lump the star mix samples together. If you look before that, it will have items that were single source profiles.
That's why I said the majority or if not all. I didn't say every single one.
I wouldn't say the majority, no.
Certainly looks that way. Is it autosomal? How do you say that word? I'm sorry.
Autosomal.
Autosomal STR-DNA results and conclusions. That starts on page 5. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct, yes.
And ends on page 13. Would that be fair to say?
That's correct, yes.
Would it be fair to say that page 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6, out of all those pages, only 3 have single source, and all the rest of them have at least 2 or 3 mixtures. Would that be fair to say?
No.
And can you point out where the inaccuracy may be?
Sure.
In case I'm not being accurate.
Yeah, on page 6, the first profile that you're looking at, cuttings of the apparent hair from the gas tank strap, that's a single source profile.
That's 1.
The next line, the cutting of the unlit end of the blunt is 1.
2.
Cuttings of the apparent roots from the hairs, which is CC4, CC5, and CC8. So that's 3 items right there.
So you're looking at the actual heading.
That's correct.
And is that it from
On that page, yes.
any other pages?
Which direction, Mr. Brooks? Forward or backwards?
I don't consent to being called that name. We're going from page 6.
Are you asking single source profiles?
To page 7. From page 7, do you see any single source? Or yes, I guess it would be called single source.
No. From page 6 to 13, as you previously stated, those are my star mix ones. So each one of those is going to be a mixture profile.
So the majority of them have mixture a mixture of persons?
From those pages, yes, but there are many single source profiles before the star mix conclusions.
Do you recall who you turned your report over to once you finished your report?
For technical review?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
For technical review?
I'm referring to once you had finished your written report. Do you recall who you turned that over to?
Yes.
You stated for the jury and for the record?
Kelly Gajewski was my tech reviewer.
Could you just spell that last name for the record?
It's Gajewski, Gajewski.
Thank you.
And do you know what happened to the written report from that point?
After she reviews it, sent it back for edits, and then I fixed those. It was approved by her. Then it goes to a supervisor for an administrative review.
Fix the edits? What do you mean by fix the edits?
If there's any typos or anything like that, it'll come back. Or if I forgot to initial a page or something like that, I'll fix those and then send it back to her for approval.
Working with law enforcement, which you've stated you've done numerous times. And in regards to written reports, to your knowledge, are you aware of officers taking a creative writing course?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained. That's the fourth question.
Have you yourself ever taken a creative writing course?
Objection, relevance.
Sustained. Not relevant. Next question.
Have you or anyone you know filed a complaint in this matter?
No.
Would you consider yourself an injured party in this matter?
No.
Ever directly talk to the plaintiff in this matter?
I don't know how I would talk to the state of Wisconsin.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
I do not know how I would talk to the state of Wisconsin. It's an entity, not a person.
Not a person, right? No further questions?
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes. Sir, on page 6 of your report, you were identifying for the defendant the some of the single source profiles that you developed. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And one of the items you described as items CC4A, CC5A, and CC8A. Do you see that?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer. Go ahead.
Yes, I do.
What do those items represent?
Objection leading.
Overruled, the witness may answer.
Those are cuttings of the apparent root ends of the hairs that I took off the sweatshirt.
Got to ask you about the hairs.
Objection leading.
Did you, I'm sorry, that was a statement. I'll move on, Your Honor.
Thank you.
You told Mr. Brooks on cross that you developed a single source profile for those hairs. Is that right?
Objection, I don't consent to being called that name, and it's leading the witness.
The objections are noted. Overruled, the witness may answer.
That's correct.
Who was the source of those hairs on that sweatshirt? States exhibit number 84.
Objection speculative.
Overruled. Go ahead and answer.
Darrell Brooks is the source.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Great, thank you, sir. You may step down. As much as I would love to have another witness, I'm trying to break for the night because it is 5:49. So, with that, I will give the instruction that I've been giving every night to the jurors. So please listen. Do not begin your deliberations and discussion of the case until all the evidence is presented and I have instructed you on the law. Do not discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else until your final deliberations in the jury room. This order is not limited to face-to-face conversations. It also extends to all forms of electronic communications. Do not use any electronic devices such as a mobile phone or computer, text or instant messaging, or social networking sites to send or receive any information about this case or your experience as a juror. If you come in contact with the parties, lawyers, interpreters, or witnesses, do not speak with them. For their part, the parties, lawyers, interpreters, and witnesses will not contact or speak with the jurors. Do not listen to any conversation about this case. Do not research any information that you personally think might be helpful to you in understanding the issues presented. Do not investigate this case on your own or visit the scene, either in person or by any electronic means. Do not read any newspaper reports or listen to any news reports on radio, television, over the internet, or any other electronic application or tool about this trial. Do not consult dictionaries, computers, electronic applications, social media, the internet, or other reference materials for additional information. Do not seek information regarding the public records of any party or witness in this case. Any information you obtain outside the courtroom could be misleading, inaccurate, or incomplete. Relying on this information is unfair because the parties would not have the opportunity to refute, explain, or correct it. Do not communicate with anyone about this trial or your experience as a juror while you are serving on this jury. Do not use a computer, cell phone, or other electronic device, including personal wearable electronics, applications, or tools with communication capabilities to share any information about this case. For example, do not communicate by telephone, blog post, email, text message, instant message, social media post, or in any other way on or off the computer. Do not permit anyone to communicate with you about this matter, either in person, electronically, or by any other means. If anyone does so despite your telling them not to, you should report that to me. I appreciate that it is tempting when you go home in the evening to discuss this case with another member of your household, but you may not do so. This case must be decided by you, the jurors, based on the evidence presented in the courtroom. People not serving on this jury have not heard the evidence, and it is improper for them to influence your deliberations and decision in this case. After the trial is completed, you are free to discuss this case and communicate with anyone in any manner. These rules are intended to assure that jurors remain impartial throughout the trial. If any juror has reason to believe that another juror has violated these rules, you should report that to me. If jurors do not comply with these rules, it could result in a new trial involving additional time and significant expense to the parties and the taxpayers. You are to decide the case solely on the evidence offered and received at trial. With that, you are excused for the evening. I'll briefly discuss scheduling with the parties and then let Michael and Jen know when to report tomorrow. Thank you. All rise for the jurors, please. We good? Oh, there's the door. Thank you. Be seated. Just briefly as to scheduling tomorrow, since we had a late evening, how about we start at 9 a.m. tomorrow? Any objection from the state?
No.
From Mr. Brooks? No. All right, 9 a.m. tomorrow. For scheduling purposes, I'll take up, obviously, tomorrow morning, whether the state can recall Detective Casey. That would be your last witness.
Yes.
All right, then, sir, you have the option, should you choose, of an opening statement. So you should be prepared for that. And then to call witnesses, I believe you've worked with Attorney Opper. Do you need to provide her with anything regarding that tomorrow? Yeah. All right, anything else from the state?
No.
Any?
I don't have anything at this time, Your Honor. If you excuse us, then I'll make sure I get that paperwork from Mr. Brooks for the defendant, and we'll be ready to go.
All right, anything else from you, sir?
Oh, yeah, we're starting at 8:30, right? Or are we starting at 9 as well?
We're starting at 9.
Okay. Then Ms. Basie corrected me because we have to discuss Attorney Casey's testimony, but we also anticipate we'll have a motion in the morning, or I can tell you what it is right now, but I know the
Well,
hours
we can
getting
then,
late.
I mean, if you think it's going to take some time, then I'll have the jurors come at 9, but I want to be mindful. I know, Mr. Brooks, we all had a long day. I'll do 8:45, but I'm not going to do any earlier than that.
I think that's fair, Your
motion
Honor. It's a motion to conform the information to fit the evidence.
Oh, all right. I'll take
What
that
is
up.
that?
We'll have it in writing for Mr. Brooks in the morning, Your Honor.
Okay, that'll be great. All right. Anything else from you, sir?
No, I redid the, it's not the exact order that I'm gonna call the witnesses, but it's pretty much.
Who you want, like each time block, morning or afternoon?
Exactly.
You'll be ready to
It's
go
just
tomorrow?
not an exact order like I'm gonna call this person,
I'm
this
not going to hold you to
person.
that. As long
Yeah.
as it's by time blocks, if you want to call it that, but be ready to call
Well, I'll get
witnesses.
it just so I can state for the record, so it'll be easy to follow. I did the names by threes. I'm guessing the first 3 would be the morning, the next 3 would be the evening, and then Friday, 3 morning, and then 3 evening. Is that fair?
I think so.
Yes, we may be able to move faster, but we will attempt to stay in contact with witnesses if we can, bring somebody here sooner. If the court's got time, we'll do that, but that's very reasonable.
And then do you have any idea how long you anticipate your opening will be?
Opening statement?
Yes.
I don't think it's any way to gauge how long it will be.
Just be mindful, sir, it's not the time to make argument. Opening statements, as I like to call them, and what the jury instruction references, it's the roadmap. So I will expect to hear a lot of the evidence will show, the testimony, things of that nature. If it turns into argument, that's what happens at the close of the case.
What do you mean by argument?
If you're trying to argue the evidence and what it means,
No, I'm not trying to argue.
but this will be what, basically to lay out what the defense, what I would expect is for you to lay out what the defense or defenses that you believe you'll be presenting evidence about will be. To kind of, again, give the jury a roadmap, an idea of what to expect as your witnesses come forward. And then at some point, I don't know whether you will make a decision to testify or not, but we do have to have a conversation on the record about that. So if you could just give me an idea, if you are going to testify yourself, if you think that would be at the beginning or at the end, so I can gauge when to have that conversation with you.
I don't know for sure yet at this point.
Fair enough. So at some point I'll have that conversation with you though. All right. We'll see everyone at 8:45 tomorrow. Thank you everyone. We are in recess.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Just have any questions, can you let me look at it before you take it?